Hey, fellow space travelers and cosmos drinkers. Welcome to Cosmos with Cosmos High in the Sky edition, where we talk about the news of the sky. I'm Brandon.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Mike.
Woo! And this week we're talking April 19th through May 2nd, 2020. And I said 2020 because in 5 years, when we're still doing this, we'll have 5 instances of April and May. So I'm thinking ahead. Think of the long game, guys.
There you go. All
Yeah,
right.
long game.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
man.
But as always, since we're just now introducing, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Drinking Cosmos, Instagram, Cosmos with Cosmos, all that fun stuff. Follow us on iTunes if you want. Rating us would be sweet, because maybe we like talking to more than 3 people. Not that I don't love talking to ourselves, but that would be cool one day.
We talk to ourselves all the time.
Yeah, and because this is the quick condensed version of our show, it's not the 2 or 3 hour Lord of the Rings epic. Liz is doing quotation marks because, yes, this is never a 30-minute show, but damn it, we're trying. We're going to skip our drink segment and go straight into the rules and our show. Sky. So, Liz, what are the rules?
Oh, our rules are if you hear a dog bark, a drink. If we make any sort of Star Wars reference, take a drink. Any sort of Lord of the Ring reference, take a drink. Because we're super nerdy, and that's how we roll.
As we're doing a podcast, as we get drunk and talk about space, no one would have guessed that we're nerdy.
No. We're not nerdy at all.
We're jocks.
We're jocks.
Yeah.
Jocks, yeah. That's the word I would most use to describe myself.
All right, well, those are the rules. So now it's time for Mike George to take it away with the astronomy news of the week. Mike George, take it away.
I was just waiting. I
gotta get into character. Old-timey newsman.
All right, I got a few things. One of these things actually does not fall between the 19th of April and May 2nd.
No, that's against the rules.
It does, but it is a big anniversary. It's the 59th anniversary of Vostok 1, Yuri Gagarin.
Oh.
Yes.
Drink, comrade.
Yuri's night was just the other night. Yeah, last night.
Yeah. He blasted off into space at 6:07 Universal Time this morning, and which was about 10:07 our time here in Salt Lake, and he made one orbit, an hour and 48 minutes, and landed in Kazakhstan. So yeah, his blast off words were "off we go."
Off we go.
Off we go.
But in Russian.
Yeah, but
Russian.
The Russian version of that.
And I think a vaguely high-pitched voice, because I love that man.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard him speak, actually.
Well, because when you're going on those early voyages to space, you have to be a very tiny person to fit in those capsules.
That's true.
So he was a very tiny individual.
Okay.
Who became outspoken later on and then died in a training accident in Russia.
At the age of 34 or 35 or something.
Yeah.
That's my age.
It ain't no accident.
All right, so that's the 59th anniversary. So now we will return to news and stuff like that. So in the news.
Was that your attempt at my voice?
Nope.
Okay.
Because I can't do it. So maybe the universe is not isotropic after all?
What? Okay, why didn't you give a definition of isotropic?
That's a big word.
For those who don't know.
So when we say that the universe is isotropic, it is pretty much no matter where you look, it's kind of the same. It's the same. It's expanding uniformly. It's expanding uniformly. However, there was a recent study out of Germany that says maybe that is not the case after all. Whereas the universe a long time ago might have been expanding uniformly, it might not be doing that now.
Ooh.
So the scientists used the European Space Agency's XMM Newton telescope, the NASA Chandra telescope, and the German Rosette telescope.
Brandon has a question.
I have so many questions that I'm sure no one can answer yet. But how can things not be expanding at concurrent rates? Like, what the hell is going on there?
Well, they think that it might be dark energy related, but they haven't figured it out. But what they did
is that because we just don't know what either of those things are? It must be dark energy. Fuck it.
It's pretty much the go-to. Like, we can't see it, and there's a force happening. This is dark energy.
Yeah. But what they did was they looked at 800 galaxy clusters that all had the same properties. So distance from here, and they're looking at these things in X-rays. So the X-ray properties were all very similar, but some of these galactic clusters were brighter than others. And significantly, like 30% significantly brighter than others. But they're the same distance. So they're thinking that it has to do with that part of the universe is not expanding as fast as another part of the universe.
Okay.
So they admit, A, they don't quite understand what's going on.
Okay.
They think it's dark energy related. But B, they also admit that it is a small sample size, 800 galactic cluster. That's it. 800
in the universal scale of.
Right. I mean, even if you're sampling U.S. population, 800 is still kind of small.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're looking forward to the European Space Agency's Euclid launch in 2022, which can look at billions of galaxies, and hopefully either the data smooths out, or we actually have something going on, which is exciting.
Even if we find that these galaxies are going at different rates, wouldn't that affect our knowledge, possibly, depending on what standard candles they use, that affect our knowledge of the age of the universe, potentially?
Right. So what they have to do is you just can't look at any part of the part of the universe and say, hey, everything's the same as every other part of the universe. You have to actually now take into account where you're looking, what direction you're looking in.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
so I always, this isn't a new physics thing, but I always love shit like this where it just kind of turns everything kind of upside down. So, all right. So a few other things. Comet update. See 2019 Y4 Atlas. Woohoo!
Comet of Doom.
Yes, it is dimming now. Yes, when it crossed Mars orbit, it was magnitude 8.0. Now it's 9.98. They think it's disintegrating, which means it ain't gonna be much of a show.
Okay.
So I have a conspiracy theory.
Oh, okay, bring it.
So my conspiracy theory is this, and please do not think this is real, but my conspiracy theory is this. This comet, this harbinger of doom, which we've known since age mythology, since medieval times, is on a straight course to hitting planet Earth. And why is it disintegrating? Has anyone heard from Bruce Willis the last couple of weeks?
Continuing on. The Hubble Space Telescope celebrates 30 years. On April 24th, on launch day. Woo. Went up on ST-31 Discovery, Space Shuttle Discovery. So, just an absolute amazing telescope that has completely changed.
Yeah, let's stop. Everybody.
Collaborate.
Drink to Hubble.
Oh, a toast.
A toast to Hubble.
Toast to Hubble.
Keep those drinks ready because we now have to make another toast. To one Margaret Burbage.
Toast.
Rest in peace.
She's fantastic.
Died on April 5th at the age of 100, apparently from complications of a fall. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. First woman to be director of the Royal Observatory. Had to deal with so much sexism in the world.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Speaking of Hubble, she was a contributor to the design of some instruments on the Hubble Space Telescope. So she studied galactic rotations and quasars. But what she is probably most famous for is the B squared FH paper on stellar nucleosynthesis. So the title of the paper is actually Synthesis of the Elements in Stars. She was the first of the Burbages on that paper. It was her and her husband, Jeffrey. And then you have William Fowler and Fred Hoyle, 1955, 1956.
Wow.
So,
and that is my all-time favorite scientific paper. If you go back and listen to our supernova episode, I talk all about it. I go in depth.
Yeah, so absolutely amazing. So to you, Margaret, thank you. And that's all I got. That's all I got on the news of the universe.
Thank you, Mike, for the astronomy events of the week. Now we have Brandon Riddle with the rocket launches of the week. Take it away, Brandon.
Thank you, Liz. So the rocket launches of the week are a little bit iffy, due to current life and Earth circumstances. Luckily, the comet is breaking up, so hopefully we're on the tail end. But if we go back to our last episode, we have some quick reviews to go through. We talked about rocket launches last time as well, including a Chinese launch of the Long March 3B. And this was, another typical launch that was going to launch a Indonesian satellite up there in space. But what happened to that Chinese rocket launch? Wow. It got up there. First stage went well. Second stage went well. And then when it goes over Guam, the third stage, it was the third stage. It fails in just spectacular fashion. If you go Google Long March 3B rocket launch or just Guam rocket launch, you'll see just this beautiful cataclysm falling through the sky. It's so cool. And bad, because, you don't want the rocket launch to fail, especially when it's carrying a communication satellite for Indonesia for broadband.
Yeah. And
I don't mean a quote communication satellite. This was a legit thing.
Real one?
Yeah.
Aw. Well, that's sad.
Yeah. And this was their second Chinese rocket's second failure in a month. It's not good.
Oh, no.
And they're supposed to launch an experimental rocket, their heavy launch, later this or next month. And now all these issues, who knows? So that was bad news.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess better luck next time.
Yeah, good luck, China. So in better news, on the same day, on April 9th, we had a successful launch of Soyuz, launching one astronaut, two cosmonauts, to the International Space Station, featuring one of my favorite astronauts, Chris Cassidy. Great guy. But he potentially may be the last U.S. astronaut to launch on the Soyuz. Because after this, was supposed to transition to SpaceX and Boeing. So this is a big deal.
Oh, wow.
That could be exciting. And of course, due to the current... what was that?
So that's kind of scary.
It is, because the Soyuz is such... It honestly has been a dependable vehicle, despite last year's oopsie, in which they had to abort. But everyone survived. It's just a little oopsie.
Is that what they call it?
Just a little
They call it...
oopsie.
The technical is oopsie. Oopsie, comrade.
Oh
okay.
My God.
And
all right,
if you were curious, they did go through extraneous quarantine exercises, not just a typical 2 weeks and that's it. It was a little more than 2 weeks, and then everyone around them, the skeletal crew, they had to whittle it down, was also in quarantine. Okay. So they had to make sure no virus was going to get up there.
I bet they are real happy to be getting off this planet.
Oh, I would be.
And then you had the people coming home thinking, "Oh God,
God damn
what
it!
did I do?
I don't want to return to this planet."
I would go up there in a heartbeat. I would take on all the radiation threats, micrometeorite threats, all of it, of it.
Can you imagine just how cozy it feels to be floating there in the little module with some friends and watching Star Wars on a tiny screen in space? That has to be such a cool feeling.
That would be real fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What's next?
Do it.
What's next, Brandon?
So looking ahead at the rocket launches, the only one on the docket is April 16th, which I guess would be before this airs potentially. That's a Falcon 9 Starlink launch. I got opinions about Starlink, but there it is. And then a whole lot of to be determined. A lot of them.
Okay.
Do we want to do the general space news then?
Well, you've just said it. Our listeners now are expecting it.
Hey, we have some general space news, ladies and gentlemen, or Jack on Twitch. The first one is kind of cool. So Rocket Lab, that small rocket launch folks in New Zealand and also in California, they tested catching a fucking rocket as it fell from the sky.
I'm sorry, catching it? With what?
What?
So just like SpaceX, there's a big rush to reuse the rockets because you would bring down the price. So what's happening here is instead of landing it, the rocket is going to disperse a parachute, slowly fall down the Earth, And then Rocket Lab's going to have a flippin' helicopter swing by with a hook and grab it.
Okay.
And so, yes.
All right. First of all, I really want the helicopter thing, but my question is, if it's got the parachutes, why do the helicopter thing?
So if it's on the parachute for two reasons. Number one, if you land in the water, you can get all its saltwater erosion, and it's just a mess to reuse. It's basically not worth it. A lot of the space shuttle stuff landed in the ocean. NASA went back and got it, picked it up, refurbished it. That just cost so much money, it almost wasn't worth it. So in this case, you save it from saltwater, and if you land on land, dense, rock's going to poke holes in it. So it's probably just best to catch a thing.
Catch it midair.
Oh, I so want to see that.
And it's there, actually. If you go to YouTube or Google Rocket Lab catches rocket, they have like a whole 5-minute really cool video of just a helicopter catching a rocket midair. It's cool.
I want that job.
And I think that's the same method that the new ESA rocket and the Vulcan rocket from United Launch Alliance, that's how they want to reuse their rockets as well, is catching it in midair with a hook dangling from a helicopter.
So basically they're like, all right, guys, we need to one-up Elon. He's just landing his rockets on a pad in the middle of the ocean. Let's fucking catch ours in midair.
It's so cool.
That's pretty badass.
So yeah, that's Rocket Labs. I see Mike is looking up the video right now because it looks super cool.
Yeah, I am.
He's not. It's not.
I was communicating.
Okay. So that's Rocket Lab. They still have a couple of rocket launches to go as well, but TBD. Moving forward, another rocket launch company, Virgin Orbit. So Virgin Orbit is kind of the same company as Virgin Galactic, except what's happening here is Virgin Orbit's using a Boeing 747 rather, called Cosmic Girl to go up into the sky, and then kind of like I guess you would call it a missile. It drops a rocket from its wings and launches off into space. So they're trying to launch satellites into space via an airplane. Also cool. They just won the $35 million contract to launch 44 small sats for the Air Force. And as a matter of fact, while we speak right now, they're going through a test of launching Cosmic Girl and getting everything ready. That's going on right now for those of you on Twitch. Speaking of putting people into space, back in December, Boeing launched the Starliner capsule to the International Space Station as a test. However, due to a couple issues, it didn't quite make it to the International Space Station, but it did land safely in New Mexico desert. So what's happening now, because they didn't achieve ISS orbit, they're launching another test just to make sure everything is hunky-dory. Because when you launch people up there, you want to make sure everything is right.
You want to make sure it's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You want to test shit out.
Like microphones?
Yeah. Instead of like, we'll see if it works. It'll be fine, sure.
So there was some back and forth whether or not they would do a second test or just launch crew up there. But in the end, they decided to do a second test. And that will take place sometime between October or November. And that means, because SpaceX did the launch to the space station with crew well before then, as of right now, SpaceX is going to win the race between SpaceX and Boeing to launch U.S. astronauts from U.S. soil for the first time since 2011.
The new space race. The corporate space race.
The corporate
space race.
Looks like that may have been decided. But you know what? You got to get it right. So props to Boeing for doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
And finally, we have yet one more toast. We're going to have a toast to NASA's Solar Radiation and Climate Experiment satellites, or SORCE.
SORCE.
Right.
SORCE.
The SORCE. This satellite's been up there for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Good, long mission.
Wow, I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, it's been used to measure the amount of solar energy entering Earth's atmosphere, which is cool. For 17 years, that's actually 3 times longer than it was designed for. Wow. So it was over-engineered, but when you go to space. So anyway, SORCE has officially ended due to battery issues. It can no longer communicate. However, it's not going to be a piece of space junk up there like the Millennium Falcon. Drink. It's going to re-enter the atmosphere and burn up in 2032.
All right.
Because NASA thinks ahead and can deorbit things even without propellants. So, hey,
nice.
Think ahead.
All right. Well, Thank you, Brandon, for the rocket launches of the week and the general astronomy news of the week, I suppose, is what was happening. And now on to Liz with what's happening in the night sky. Liz, take it away. Thank you, myself. All right. So, of course, high in the sky. So, what we want is for everyone to go outside at night, early morning, and just look up and check out the shit that's up there, that's above your heads. It's high in the sky.
Look at shit
Because it's amazing and beautiful. So of course, the evening planet that has been with us for a while is good old Venus, our sister planet. And on April 27th, Venus will reach its maximum brightness.
Ooh. Maximum brightness.
It goes through phases, like the moon. And so, of course, that will change its brightness from our perspective. It's also, I think, going to be closer to us in its orbit, which makes it brighter. So check out Venus because it's awesome, and you can see it go through phases if you have like binoculars or a telescope.
And it looks really bright, like every night you go out right now. It's a beautiful sight.
It's obvious. It's very obvious. It's like, oh, look at that bright star. Nope. It's Venus.
You can immediately say, oh man, that ain't no moon.
All right, drink.
It ain't.
And all you people that are making your wishes on that first star you see at night, you're probably making it on Venus.
On Venus.
So
it's Planet Bright. Wait, Planet Bright. First planet I see tonight.
There you go. Just change the word.
Yeah.
Just change it.
Which I guess if you're wishing on a light in the sky, it might as well be to the goddess of love and beauty. Why the hell not?
Exactly.
Because she's fucking hot.
Ha!
Yeah, Venus is on average 900 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's a fucking hot planet. I used to love doing that joke in the planetarium.
Meanwhile, everybody was like, did she just come out? What is it? Did she
look? As a straight cis woman, I can find other women attractive. I can say that chick's hot. All right. Moving on, some constellations that you can find in the sky. You can find a lot of them up in the sky. Just a couple that we're going to point at just a couple we're going to note for you. One of those is in the northern part of the sky. It is a circumpolar constellation. We defined circumpolar in a previous show, being when in the northern hemisphere you can find these constellations all year long. They basically circle the North Pole.
It's up 24 hours.
Up 24 hours. I mean, it may get a little bit low on the horizon at certain points in the night where you can't really see it because it's blocked by whatever's on your horizon. But generally, all throughout the year, you can find it. And this constellation, it is a very famous constellation, easy to spot. It is Cassiopeia.
Yay! Go back and listen to our Clash of Titans story, and you know all about it.
It's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride.
Cassiopeia, she's the mother of Andromeda. She's a queen who is very absorbed in herself. She thinks she's like hot shit. But anyway, you can find her by looking for a W shape of stars, a large W shape of stars in the northern part of the sky. Yes, Brandon.
No, never mind.
Did you have a joke?
I did have a joke, but that's okay.
No.
So Cassiopeia, as you said, is hot shit, but as a straight cisgender woman, is she hot shit, or are you just saying that because that's her traditional nomenclature?
No, I'm saying she thinks she's hot shit.
Oh,
I don't think she's hot shit. She thinks she's hot shit. And because she thought she was hot shit, that got her daughter almost sacrificed to a fucking sea monster.
Yeah, so basically she's a Donald Trump.
She needs to keep her ego in check.
And we need to see this.
And that's why she's up there. So she's a queen, but half the year she's upside down. And that's not good for your complexion. And that's part of the punishment. It's because half the year she looks ugly because she's hanging upside down.
Hey, Brandon, we have Cetus right now. It's called COVID. COVID and Cetus, yes.
Ouch.
We're living Cetus right now.
All right, so you can find Cassiopeia, a W pattern of stars to the north. And again, Google Sky Maps, whatever app you can use, you can point your phone up in the sky, and it can help you find and help you learn to recognize these different constellations that are up there. So another constellation that is a summertime constellation that's beginning to rise late in the evening, that is Lyra the Harp. It looks like a Jesus fish.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think because that's how I draw fish, with like, and then you have like the triangles, the tail, and everything.
you make the snack that smiles back.
Yeah. So
I like how you draw this for a podcast.
Well, look, it's for Twitch. There you go. There's my, I don't know. So Lyra the Harp is rising, and something exciting is happening with Lyra. Later this month, between April 16th and April 28th, we have the Lyrid meteor shower.
Hell yeah!
So essentially, with a meteor shower is generally when the Earth passes through the tail of a comet, or occasionally it can be like asteroid debris. Generally, it's through a tail of a comet, and so we get just all these particles from the tail burning up in our atmosphere, and you'll hear different meteor shower names like Lyrids or Geminids or Orionids, Perseids, and those names basically signal the direction in which the meteor shower seems to be originating from. So, for example, the Lyrids appear to be originating from the constellation of Lyra the Harp.
Is that do we call that the epicenter in space? What do we call that? Is it epicenter?
I don't know. I've never heard that term related to anything other than earthquakes.
For the meteor shower?
Yeah. Is it epicenter of the meteor shower?
It's not epicenter, but
it's not really
radiant point.
From
it's the
radiant point. There we look at fancy physics man coming through.
That's why we got you. You got the knowledge.
Whatever.
We're just
why I make the big money in this podcast.
To look pretty, Brandon and I. So the Lyrids, again, this meteor shower, it's not the brightest meteor shower that we experience. Luckily, it will be happening when we have a new moon, so that means the skies are going to be dark.
Oh, yeah.
It's best to catch it basically between midnight and like 6 a.m. or before sunrise, and it's going to peak on April 22nd. And you can roughly get like 18 meteors per hour, so it's not huge, but if you want to check it out and see some cool streaks of light happening across the sky, some shit getting burnt up in our atmosphere, go out and look at it.
Some streaks of light that aren't Starlink, but that's fine.
Oh, yeah. Fucking Starlink. Anyway, we'll just ignore that tangent right now. Another constellation that is rising up in the evening is, we're going to talk about a little bit more later, but that is Auriga, the charioteer.
Oh, that's how you say it.
Well, that's how I say it. How do you say it?
No, I like it. I go Auriga.
Auriga.
When I say Auriga, it feels like it's some kind of spice I put on chicken or salmon or something. Auriga. Throw some Auriga on that.
You got that Auriga? Auriga, that's how I've always said it. But it's a charioteer.
Potato.
And so it'll be rising in the evening now. Again, it's kind of a dimmer constellation, but it does have a fairly bright star. I think it's like the third or fourth brightest star in the night sky.
Sure.
So overall, it's the sixth brightest.
Oh, okay.
But in the northern hemisphere, it's the third brightest.
Okay.
I know that because, hang on, folks, we'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. And that is the star Canopus. Capella. Canopus is different. Capella. Thank you. It's sort of with a C.
You're right. No, you're exactly right. It is Capella, just like you said.
It's been a while. So Capella. And again, an app can help you find that one rising in the eastern sky later in the evening. And since it is Hubble's 30th anniversary of being in space, in the Big Dipper, or Ursa Major, the Big Bear, which is to the north, another circumpolar constellation. If you have like a high-powered pair of binoculars, or well, I guess they're not doing star parties now because.
No, but if you have a telescope, you can still go out in the backyard. The Whirlpool and Pinwheel galaxies, which we also referenced last High in the Sky episode, they're hanging out in the handle of the Big Dipper. And then one more event that's happening April 29th. If you have a good pair of binoculars, you can find the Lunar X
on the surface of the moon. And so basically, this is when the rims of the craters Parbach, La Caille, I don't know how to say that, and Blanquinus, they're illuminated from a particular angle of sunlight, and so they form like this small X, like a very obvious X shape. And of course, they don't really form an X. It's just we happen to just visually imagine. We're just like, oh, that looks like an X to us. That what is it called? Pareidolia.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Effect, where we make up shit that's familiar with us, like Jesus toast.
Happy Easter, everyone.
There you go. So you can find the lunar X on April 29th.
This is the first time I've heard of lunar X. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, me too. Actually, it's the first. I was looking up shit that was going on, and I was like, "What the fuck is this lunar X?"
So if I were you, if you wanted to look at it, I would find out where those 3 craters are.
Yeah.
And look there.
Well, yeah. I mean,
so where's that X on the moon? Also, pay attention to the phase. What's the phase of the moon? Do we know? On the 29th?
Yes.
The 29th. It should be. Go ahead.
I didn't write it down.
Well, if it's a full moon, then you
no. It should be it should be a I think it's a waxing crescent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. Because we just have a new moon before that, so it's going to be a waxing crescent. So you have a nice terminator. It's actually located near the terminator, about a third of the way up from the southern pole of the moon.
Yeah, because we just had the famous. We just had the pink moon a couple days ago. So, quote unquote pink. Yeah, I know. So,
And for everybody listening, waxing means that it's getting bigger each night. So it's right after sunset. So
because you wax on.
Yes. And you wane off.
Okay.
Hey. We're not fancy physics people. We need stupid sayings like that to remember things.
Waxing D, waning car. That's what we need. We need these people like, oh, it looks like a D, so it must be
anyway.
Waxing
it's waxing. It's getting bigger in the sky, which means it's right after sunset.
Okay. Moving on from right after sunset to before sunrise, the same 3 planets that have been hanging out with us are still up there hanging out. We got good old Jupiter, a.k.a. Joopy Joops. It'll be the brightest one.
Joopy Joops.
All right, to the east of Jupiter, and these will all be in a line because they all orbit the sun on the same plane.
And what's that called?
The ecliptic.
Yeah.
After Jupiter to the east, we have Saturn. And then following Saturn is a more reddish planet, which would be good old-fashioned Mars.
Nice.
Hanging out.
Now, I want to point out for those of you listening at home and Jack on Twitch, we've reached that point now where at least Liz and I have had a decent, strong drink in us, and we're just feeling it right now. You can tell because the cursing's gone.
Coming up right now, we have the Mythographer's Corner with Brandon Riddle. Brandon, take it away, our local resident mythographer.
Mythographer Corner. Let's talk about myths and constellation stories.
Let's do it.
So we, of course, learned what was in our sky tonight, but once every 2 weeks during the show, we like to dive in depth into one particular constellation. And in this case, we have either Auriga, we have what Liz called...
Auriga.
Auriga.
I like Auriga.
Or we have... Or what Jack's on Twitch. What did he say? Auriga. Which sounds kind of cool.
Auriga?
Auriga.
There's a little accent over the I. I don't know what the accents mean.
Let's go with Auriga. Because it's Auriga is like a combination of all of ours. Okay. Auriga. So we're going with Auriga here, folks. So what is Auriga? How do you find Auriga? Why do we care about it? So number 1, it's one of the OG constellations from the Almagest.
Ooh.
Yes. So one of the original 44 constellations has since been expanded upon to reach our total of 88 constellations. But there's one of the first ones that we wrote down. It's typically told with the story with a chariot or goats. We'll get into that in a moment. But the best way to find Auriga, what's what we're going with our city nights, whether you're in, New York City, Germany, Salt Lake City, wherever, the best way to find it is to find that bright star, Capella.
Capella.
So what you want to do, you want to find north, So again, find Polaris at North Star, and then just look west. And you can see 2 really bright lights through the rest of this month. One of those will be Venus. That'll be the really bright one. And the one that's not quite as bright, slightly more to the north to Venus, will be Capella. It's the 6th brightest star in the sky. Altogether, 3rd brightest in the northern hemisphere. And what's cool about this is it's not only 1 star. It's not 2 stars. Oh, no, it's not 3 stars. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a quadruple star system. Whoa! 4 for the price of 1.
Wow.
Damn.
Aww.
So we see it as 1 star, but it's 4 stars altogether. And there's really kind of 2 systems going on there. We have the first one, Capella AA and Capella AB. Both of those are roughly 10 times the diameter of the sun. Oh, it's huge.
Wow. Oh, they're big.
So big. Not only are they huge, they're super close to each other. They're only 60 million miles apart.
Oh,
which is closer than the Earth is to the sun.
60 million?
All of them are within 1 AU of each other?
No, just AA and AB.
That's close.
2 stars that are 10 times the diameter of the sun. So they're very close. Now, the other ones, to what I understand, they were orbiting AA and AB. We call them HL, and they're just a pair of red dwarfs.
Oh, just a pair of fucking red dwarfs.
Yeah, well, A and B took everything. They took it all.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
Really.
It's like Jupiter, like Jupy Jupes in the solar system.
For anybody. It's like, fuck you, A and B.
Yeah, so that system's about 40 light years away, but it's far away. Don't worry about it. But it looks pretty in our sky. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the best way to find Arija, is what I'm going with. Arija. But there are so many different constellations every single time. You know, I'm going to call it Auriga because it's been in my head the last 10 years. It's Auriga to me.
Go with the spice.
It's a spice. It's an oregano. Auriga, whatever.
We all have it in our spice rack. We have it in our spice rack.
Yeah.
Auriga.
Just a little
now,
Auriga with some paprika.
Yeah.
I don't want you to confuse our spice rack Auriga with Spica. That's a different star.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely.
So again, all the other stars in the constellation will be way too dim to really see in cities. So just look for that bright star Capella, that quadruple star system. Just imagine, if you will, whatever picture you would like. Because there are many different pictures. Mm-hmm. If we go back to the ancient Greek folks or the European mythologies, we have roughly 28.6 million different stories. I'm just going to read these all the way down as fast as I can.
Seems about right. Okay.
Like 28 million sounds about right. Yeah. So, oh God, I have to pronounce these names. First of all, we have Aristophanes. He's the legendary king of Athens and son of the fire god, also known as Vulcan, which is cool.
Or Hephaestus for Greek.
Or Hephaestus, yes. And thank you for saying that first, because I don't think I could say it.
I got
so speaking of which, the other story is Hephaestus, a.k.a. Vulcan. He is what I'm going to call the innovative god. Yes, live long and prosper to Vulcan, Hephaestus, the innovative god. We say that because his legs didn't quite work. So he built the chariot so he could travel anywhere he wanted to, whenever he wanted to, without difficulty.
Okay, that works.
Which is cool.
That's yeah. It's pretty smart.
So I bet you he could sell that as well. So he's a capitalistic.
He could probably make a pretty good market on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who wants to walk everywhere?
Not me.
No one wants to walk everywhere.
Anyway, so up next we have Myrtilus, the charioteer, son of Hermes, who raced for love.
Oh.
Which is kind of cool.
That's nice.
Well, we may talk about that later.
Okay.
And then we have Almathea, which I love due to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But Almathea was, in fact, the goat who foster mothered Zeus.
Okay.
All right.
Can I? So if you
please do
go to a planetarium show, well, depending on which constellation art that planetarium uses, for ours it was this dude holding a little goat, and that goat was Almathea.
Yeah, a couple goats.
Was it a couple? Oh, I didn't know that was the goat.
Yeah, that's what I read.
It's a goat.
He was
holding this
little goat.
Neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's Almathea.
Yeah, our artwork was not the chariot; it was the goats, the kids, because the two little two stars near near Capella are known as the kids.
Oh, because goats
and
are also kids.
But also Capella itself is known as the Goat Star, so that makes sense too. And then we have Hippolytus, son of Theseus, and Hippolytus was killed after rejecting the advances of Phaedra, his stepmother. So go look up that story, folks.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And then we have what we just talked about. Yeah, it's very Greek. And then we have Bellerophon. That was the mortal rider of Pegasus who dared approach Mount Olympus with his baby goat Almathea apparently in his arm. And this was my go-to story in the planetarium. So, we always have our main constellation stories to talk about. We always have Clash of the Titans. We have Hercules, or we can look behind us and do any of those. And then we have those filler constellations. We just quickly mention what they are and maybe a quick backstory. So Auriga was my quick backstory. So I would always say, and here we have Auriga with a bright star Capella, and we'll bring up the arts. There he is. He was a mountain climber who was climbing Mount Olympus with his baby goat, because sure, why not? Until he got too high. He got very close to the top of Mount Olympus, where Zeus, was claimed to be home. And Zeus saw this, didn't like it, and he quickly flipped him off into space, and he became a constellation. That was my go-to story.
Nice. Mine was basically like, hey, here's Auriga. He's known as the charioteer, and he has a pet goat for some reason. And then I would move on.
Yeah. And that's probably where I got for some reason from, is listening to Liz a couple times. Oh, he has a goat for some reason. Let me write that down. I got a couple laughs. And you always knew that was never the big laugh getter, but you would get a couple chuckles now and then. So that was kind of fun to talk to. So that was the general Western European mythology. And non-European mythology, I just kind of handpicked a couple of these. We have Carterdruk. That is the Inuit constellation, which meant collarbones. And Carterdruk, collarbone, there we go. Carterdruk signaled the arrival of Ardruk. And that was the dawn following the winter solstice. So things were about to be not nearly as negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
And that's using the sky to tell time and to track the seasons. Great example of that.
I mean, the first thing that popped in my head was, with a name like that, it's got to be like the end of the world.
Carterdruk.
Yeah, it does sound.
Yeah. And then Ardruk. Oh, it's all ending now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The end of all things. And then we have, in Hindu astronomy, the heart of Brahma. I didn't write down its name. Damn it. So anyway, Capella is, I'm so sorry, guys. Capella in Hindu astronomy is the heart of Brahma, which is the creator god. That's kind of cool. Okay, yeah. Hindu astronomy and Hindu, mythology and religion is very confusing to me. So I just know it was one of the gods, I think, of Vishnu.
Okay.
I apologize if it's not. Come correct me.
I know nothing of Hindu next time. Other than the gods seem to have a lot of arms generally, and one has an elephant head. That's my limited knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's how we go ahead.
I'm sure that I'm gonna get a lot of comments from my friends in India now.
All I know is the Hindu gods look badass. How about that? They look pretty fucking cool. Just like the Egyptian gods, they look pretty fucking cool.
They do. They do.
Not just like white guys and jokers.
And then we're gonna offend another billion people.
Okay.
Going down to China, we have Boucher. I hope I'm saying that right. Boucher. It is an asterism, so again, a part of a larger constellation. And it is the second of 5 chariots. And that's just Capella star as well. Second of 5 chariots.
Still a chariot theme, though. Still a chariot theme.
Yeah, chariot themes. And then finally, for our non-European cultures, we had the Polynesian culture. And they have Capella as a part of another asterism called... Mike, do you want this one?
Kekao Makali'i.
Which means the canoe baler of Makale.
Makali'i.
Makali'i.
Yeah, you pronounce every.
You pronounce every letter.
Oh.
E's sound like hard A's. No, so it'd be K Ka O Makali'i. And so yeah. But you pronounce every letter. And it was this whole thing was created by fucking missionaries. So
no,
so like the Hawaiians had their language, and the missionaries went over there and they tried to write it all down, and that's why the Hawaiian alphabet only has it's like 16 letters. It's not even it's not all the letters that the European alphabet has, and these are, and you pronounce every single letter, and so when there's an apostrophe between them, so you would go Makali'i. You actually pronounce both I's as an E.
Like Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
And that and that is languages with Mike George.
Linguistics with George.
Now I butchered it. I butchered that language lesson, but there.
So that's a brief overview of non-Western Riga stories, but now we have what I'm considering the main event. We have the main story of Riga, the main constellation story I'm going with, and I am naming it Death Race. Boom, boom, boom. So if you recall with your Greek stories, we had Metellus, the charioteer, son of Hermes, who raced for love. And it was indeed a death race starring Jason Statham and an actress who looks completely uninterested in the link I have.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do this right.
Jason Statham was almost like new Bruce Willis.
Yeah, almost. Almost, and then not so much.
It's that British accent wasn't quite there. It was more Liverpool, like more, what do you want to call it? Not high class.
Hey, governor.
There you go. Like he'd be friends with Oliver Twist. He'd be the Dodger. That's more New York, Dodger. Anyway, our drinks are getting empty, so enjoy this story of Death Race. And of course, as always with our Greek stories, there is a disclaimer of typical ancient Greek people being terrible and horrible, and there's death and rapey things going on, so just a heads up. All right, so here we have the story of Metellus. I'm going to pronounce that differently throughout the show, so get used to it. Metellus, the charioteer, son of Hermes. So it turns out that he was the charioteer. He was a driver for King Onomus of Pisa. I recognize one of those words, Pisa.
Pisa, like the leaning.
And this king had a beautiful daughter named Hippodamia.
Okay.
Hippodamia.
They need to work on the names.
Yeah, just
right. When I saw that, I just go, in my mind, her name's Hippo now.
Yeah. What's up, Hippo?
She's a beautiful hippo. It's like Disney Fantasia with the hippos doing ballet.
I love that.
Yeah, I actually can hear it now.
Yeah.
And see it.
So this king was super protective, a young hippo. And in fact, whenever a suitor would come by to try to ask for Hippo's hand in marriage, he challenged them to a death or of glory chariot race. So you're either going to get her hand in marriage or you're going to die.
Nice.
Gasp. So here's how that kind of, challenge would happen. The suitor would take Hippodamia in his chariot and race down to the city of Corinth. Meanwhile, the king would chase them, and if the king caught up to them, well, the king would behead the suitor. But if the suitor won, hey, hand in marriage and you're the king one day. So that kind of sounds fair, right?
Yeah, well, to be fair, when I wanted to marry Liz, that's what Liz's dad was like. We're gonna have a chariot race down to the Bay Area, down to San Francisco.
Wait, why is
Hippo? Didn't win.
Why is Hippo on the chariot? Shouldn't she be?
I don't know.
In safety, like
why is the king on the chariot? That doesn't make sense either. They should both be in safety. But hey, you know what?
All right.
That's why we live in 2020.
All right, I'm gonna borrow Gollum and just go shh, like he does. Yes.
So anyway, that's kind of the setup. You can have my dollars hand in marriage if you defeat me in a race. Cool. But not so cool because the king was kind of a cheater. You see, for his charioteer, for his driver, he called up, what do they call him? Metrilus, the fucking son of Hermes, who's the fastest god in existence. That kind of seems like a cheat.
He's got those fancy.
So not only did he have the god of Hermes as his charioteer, the chariot itself was also dipped in like a godlike gold to go even faster. Oh. So no one's beating him. Like, you know what, Hippo? You're gonna die 80 years old because no one ain't ever gonna beat me because I'm cheating. Well, turns out through these races, Metrilus, whatever his name is, and Hippo, they talked a little bit. They had a good time, and Metrilus kind of fell in love with her. Hold up. So after a dozen times of racing, and Metrilus also, ain't no one getting Hippo except for me, is what he's thinking. Someone shows up. Pelops.
Ooh.
Yes, gasp you should. Pelops shows up. He's the handsome son of Tantalus, and he's come to claim Hippo's hands. Now, Tantalus, if you're curious, Tantalus, who is the father of Pelops, I guess our hero of the story, if we want to call it. Tantalus, who's the dad, he's most famous for his eternal punishment in Tartarus, which is the dungeon of torment and suffering for the wicked and the prison of the Titans. So Pelops, his dad is being eternally, tortured in hell, and he's thinking that's fine. I'm gonna go win this Hippo's hand in marriage. Cool. And of course, what happens when Hippo sees Pelops for the first time? She goes, "Oh my, look at him!" And they fall instantly in love.
Oh.
And they have that chemistry, that connection. And so Pelops asks the king, "I would like her hands." And the king says, "Well, we got to roll around these parts. You can only have her hand. You defeat me in this race to Corinth." And so Pelops goes, "Yeah, I can do that." So before the race begins, he moseys on over to Metrilus, remember, the charioteer, the driver, the son of Hermes, who is also in love with Hippo. And there are two different versions. Either Metrilus sees the bonds that Hippo and Pelops has and decides, you know what, I understand love. I will help you. Or the other version, again, that little warning, not Hippo, but Pelops goes to Metrilus and says, "Hey, yo, I want to win. I want this bride to be. I will, if you help me, I will give you one night, the first night after the wedding with Hippo." So either way, Metrilus goes, "Oh yeah." Go ahead, Liz. You got something to say.
For once, can the grown woman decide who she wants to be with? God damn it!
This is ancient Greek. No.
God damn you men in your patriarchal society.
Andromeda will be changed from rock to be saved by Perseus, and Hippo's gonna be saved by fucking someone. She doesn't get no choice.
Shit. Where's Xena? Get Xena in here. She'll kick some ass. Anyway, continue your fucking misogynistic Greek story.
It's not my story. I'm just reading.
I know.
All of the
It's
stories.
all of it. It's all of it. It's all the stories.
I was going to say all of the ancient stories, but no. It's
all
of the stories.
All the stories. Continue.
So we have Metrilus here, who's just asked by Pelos, or what was his name was, Pelops, say, "Hey, I want to win, help me out." And Metrilus either goes, "Yeah, I'm going to bang her the first night of the wedding," or "I love you both, so yes, I'm going to help you." Okay. So he goes to his own chariot that the king rides on, and he loosens the bolts to the wheels. Oh my, yes. And so what happens next is the death race. Woo! So the death race begins, and the king, Metrilus, and then Hippo and Pelops race off to Corinth. And Metrilus and the king are chasing them down. And the king's thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get my sword ready. I'm going to behead Pelops just like I did those 12 other people." They get close, the king swings his sword back, and the wheels give way. The chariot falls, and Metrilus is thrown away off to safety. But the king, he gets his foot tied up in the stirrup, and he is dragged by the horses until he dies. Ladies and gentlemen, the king is dead. Long live the king. So Pelops wins this race with his bride-to-be Hippos. But now there's an issue, you see. Pelops becomes the king because, of course, he is marrying the princess, the now queen. He'll become king. But Metrilus, the son of a god, also loves his wife. And he survived. There's an issue. So what does this new king do? Well, Pelops takes his friend, Metrilus, because remember, he helped him win the battle in the first place. Cool. He takes him out to sea. And for some reason, I guess Metrilus never watched Sopranos and thinks, yeah, I'm going to get on this boat with this guy and go out to sea. Until Pelops, I'm going to guess, casts Metrilus' feet in cement and throws him overboard.
Swimming with the fishes.
Swimming with the fishes. Swimming with seals. And as Metrilus goes down, he curses the house of Pelops, saying, "You will not survive. Your house will be a plague of death.
A curse on both your houses.
A curse on both your houses." And as he goes down, he knows that there will not be beauty in life in this relationship. And depending on the myth you subscribe to, a couple things happens. I'm going with my favorites. Tantalus, remember the father of Pelops, comes back from hell after he's been tortured, and then serves up a Titus Andronicus from Shakespeare, and he cooked and served his son to the gods at a banquet. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be a dick, because otherwise you're going to get cooked and served to the gods as a banquet. That's the moral of my story.
That's the moral?
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. The will, weight, and rule of the universe.
That's a good moral for everybody. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Or you'll get
be a dick.
Eaten.
So I wish now I could go back to the planetarium days and give a 20-minute rambling story about the charioteer of Auriga. And then, so yes, by the way, like how did the Auriga get up there? Because Hermes felt bad for his son who had just died in this beautiful chariot race, and then put Metrilus up in the sky as Auriga, because Hermes apparently has that power.
They all have that power.
Yeah, but you wish that you could go back to your planetarium days and end it with "Don't be a dick."
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, guys. Like that would have saved us all so much trouble.
Man, wow, God, I love these stories because they're so fucked up and just.
They really are fucked up.
They're so fucked up.
Completely.
Like, go outside at night, look up in the stars, see these constellations, and know that pretty much every story behind the constellation is real fucked up. There's incest, rape, murder, cannibalism, you name it, it's up there.
Oh, cannibalism's like the easy part.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a given.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Brandon, for Death Race. I appreciate
Thank you.
That.
Death Race, it's one of my favorite constellation stories now. Love it to death. And because I am the chosen moderator for this episode, I will close us out.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening on Twitch. Thank you, all the podcasters. Again, find us on Twitter at Drink Cosmos, Instagram, all the fun stuff. Subscribe to us on iTunes because we like listeners and we like being heckled on Twitch. It's actually quite fun. With that, everyone, stay safe, stay smart, and always look up at the sky when you can. Thank you, folks.
Yeah. Thanks
Cheers.
for joining us.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
See you next weekend.
Yes. So next week's episode, we will be doing a special episode on Star Trek.
Yeah,
Star Trek
episode. We will have a special guest,
Shannon Barson,
from the Geek Show podcast. And he will be joining us to bring his wealth of Star Trek knowledge in, and we will just be talking Star Trek and just nerding out. We will suspend the drink to any... Oh, no, we don't have a rule for Star Trek.
Not for Star Trek.
That's good. So it's all going to be Star Trek Picard, Star Trek. We're talking about it. We're getting nerdy. So
Next Generation, Discovery,
Enterprise, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Animated series, we got you.
Yeah.
Just know that the normal 3 hours that we have for our podcast is going to be extended to like 6 or 7.
It'll be 12 hours long.
It'll be 12 hours.
Well, you know what? Let's engage.
Make it so.
And on that note, we'll see you next Sunday.
Bye, guys. We'll see ya.